we still can fall into a behavior mindset that we just want to say, well, if the behavior stopped, I'm good to go, right? Where we maybe miss the good that comes of those higher levels of learning, of having things that we're trained in and able then to even pass on to others.
Something that we say a lot on this podcast and our material is that it takes really 2 to 5 years to get really fully free. Why is that? Why does it take that long?
It really comes down to, it just takes time. It takes time. We talk about renewing our mind, so it takes time to do that. It takes time to heal from our past trauma. It takes time to forgive those who have hurt us, or it takes time for us to forgive ourselves.
Right.
So it's just a process. It's a daily process with victories every day. And it's, we've treated our addiction like a full-time job for years.
Yeah.
So you can't expect to get through this in 12 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is. It's a process, and it's going to take some time, and you're going to get out of it what you put into it. I always tell guys, if you put the same amount of effort you put into group as you do your addiction, you're going to see some great changes. So it is a process. And I always tell some guys, like when you have a cinder block it's super solid, that's what happens when with our brain, so to speak. It's like, when we've been in addiction, it's just full of junk. So then you got to take this screwdriver and then you're like chiseling away and you're trying to create new paths.
That's good.
And it's not easy. So there's fragments and you got to repair those ones. And so it's just a constant remodel.
We have determined as a society that there are things that take time. And even if in the first year or two, like in college, for example, someone has a really good grasp on English or history or whatever their major is going to be, we don't just say, oh, well, you're good to go, off on your way. We recognize there are still new things to learn. There are higher levels of classes to take that are really going to build in so that by the time they're done, they're really proficient in this area and not just kind of given a quick overview. And I think when it comes to this area of our health and sexual integrity, we still can fall into a behavior mindset that we just want to say, well, if the behavior stopped, I'm good to go, right? Where we maybe miss the good that comes of those higher levels of learning, of having things that we're trained in and able then to even pass on to others. And I think of professions like plumbers and electricians and firefighters, they go through a process of both class learning, on-the-job training, apprenticeship, and then even a time period like, okay, can you do this before we officially kind of stamp you with that journeyman? And, then it's like you got your real, you've arrived as a plumber or electrician. And I think in sexual integrity, there is some of that as well. Like there's the class learning, but there's also kind of that on-the-job training of how are my relationships doing? How am I doing over a holiday like we've just come through? Did I relapse back into these old patterns and develop things that now I've got to work on again? Or was I able to go through that in a healthy way? And that's kind of like an apprenticeship idea. So that's for me what I look at is there's a lot of layers to this. And the other one that we talk about a lot, especially in the 2 to 5 year time frame, is our relationships. If we've been, particularly in a marriage where trust, intimacy, a sense of really being bonded together has been deeply broken and fractured, that doesn't change quickly. That I've described that in my groups for men to say, when your addiction was found out or when she stumbled across whatever she did that kind of brought all this to light, it was kind of like you threw a stick of dynamite into your brick home and just blew it up. And now there's bricks lying all over. And in this process of change, we're walking over and taking a brick and putting it back in the wall, and then getting another brick and and it is a lot slower, but it's kind of speaks to the level of damage that happens in our trust and relationship. So that 2 to 5 year process is a lot about getting to a place of health with other people, because even if our behavior may be changed quickly, establishing that trust and really being healthy as a couple is probably in that 2 to 3 year window where a lot of couples will say, wow, we're really seeing health. We're really seeing things stabilized. We feel like we're in a different place. And so just taking that long view and being committed to it really, I think, has benefits.
My father-in-law just had shoulder surgery and surgery.
Say that 10 times fast,
I don't want to. It's early. I don't want to do that. But you have surgery where you're under the knife. And I think that part of this journey is also that, kind of doing surgery on the soul, if you will. But then there's also this period of time where you're going to be in a lot of pain and things are going to have to heal over time before he could use his shoulder the way it's supposed to be used. And so like for me, just that's the visual I get too, like building a house or rebuilding brick by brick, but also you're giving yourself time to reset the bone maybe, or really reset your soul or the brokenness that you have, and then give that time for recovery. Because if you started to use that shoulder the day after surgery, bro, you're going to have to go back in for surgery again, probably the next week. And so just that idea, and I like what you said, basically the long game. Keep that in mind.
Well, I really like that metaphor because we probably all know people that had surgery and then they were prescribed physical therapy, but they skipped out on it.
Yep.
They didn't fulfill the, kind of the whole process. And so they can say, well, I'm not in pain anymore, but they've got a funny hitch in their shoulder, or it doesn't go up as high as it should, and they say, well, yeah, I didn't finish the process. And I think we see that in recovery where people could say, well, yeah, I'm not relapsing, I'm not looking at porn, I'm not, destroying my relationship anymore.
Yep.
But there's still a hitch in their step, in their relationship. It didn't really get all the way through to health. And I think that's what we're trying to address today is, hey, if you're making strides and some of the pain is gone, that's great. But that also can take away some of our motivation because we're like, well, I think I'm okay. I'll just skip the rest of the stuff.
Yep.
And we're here to say there's so much good that comes. Yeah, some weeks, just like physical therapy, it can feel like hard work. It can be painful. It could be tempting to say, bag it, I don't need this. But if we have that view of what we're headed towards, then we can keep after it.
Yeah, absolutely.